What's up, everyone? My name is Daniel Oliver, and I am a racing driver and sim racer. And I'm going to give you my review and perspective on the F1 movie. Okay, so a couple of things to kind of mention before talking about this movie. I saw it last night for the first time, and I want to get some things out of the way. I, obviously being a racing driver, I have a lot of requisite knowledge that maybe other people have, or don't have rather. Maybe you do have it. Maybe you're a big fan of racing, whatever. So I have to, in doing something like this, kind of turn my brain off a bit, right? Like, I have to understand a couple of things. One, like anything, if you're a basketball player, if you're in the military, whatever, when Hollywood makes these movies, there's always going to be this dramatized aspect. I think you have to go into these things, if you are that person, conscious that you are not the target audience generally for these kinds of things. It is targeted to people that are new to something or just want to enjoy something, or they don't have a ton of experience or information. So if you're thinking, oh, they wouldn't do that or whatever, if you get those thoughts, I think you have to be as objective as possible. Try to overlook those things. That's a very difficult thing to do, but when I saw this movie, I had to do that. It's the same thing as when you go see a Marvel movie or something like that. That's not comic book accurate. It's not going to be. It's not a documentary. It's not a one-to-one creation. It is a Hollywood movie based in this environment, and their goal is to show this thing in an exciting way. So that's number one. Number two, there is some implicit bias, I think, from me in that I generally think it is cool that they are doing something like this. I think it is cool that they took the tech and the processes and the filming to really show racing in a really cool way. I do know people that have worked on this film, and generally I want them to do well. But I don't think that's going to, I'm not getting paid. And while I do know people, I'm not, they're not going to beat me up if I don't think the movie is good. And so, depending on my opinion after this, what you hear, take that into consideration. I want to be as objective as possible, but there may be some implicit bias no matter how much I try to make them not be. But also, from that side, because I am trying to be objective, I may not be objective. So much so that in the opposite way, and that I may be giving it more of a pass than other people might, because I know that some things are going to be just a bit off, for lack of a better term. So keep that in mind. All that stuff in mind, let's get into the review. This is going to be spoilers. I'm going to try to make this as concise as possible, but I want to kind of talk about it. So the F1 movie covers Sonny Hayes, who is an American F1 driver in general, who previously was in F1 around the time of Senna and Prost, and he had an accident, a big accident that took him out of F1, and he's just been kind of vagabonding, for lack of a better term, through racing and throughout his life for the past 30 years. He doesn't have a successful marriage, doesn't have a family, but it kicks off with this really, really dope scene at the 24 Hours of Daytona, which I thought was really cool. I think they use a lot of real footage from one of the cars that was driving the 24 Hours of Daytona, but also they had, their own kind of things that they filmed. The first sequence was really dope. I think there are some places where it kind of went too far. There was a section where a helicopter was 10 feet off the track, which would never happen. But again, I think this is one of those things that in tandem with all the fireworks that were falling on the cars on the track would not happen in real life, but from a Hollywood perspective, it looks cool. And I think in general, I was this is cool. It was exciting. It was filmed really, really well. I was okay, this guy can drive. This is dope. And so it was pretty cool. However, he meets his friend, former friend who also drove an F1, who is, owning an F1 team, and he's hey, my team's good. If my team doesn't win, really soon they're gonna take the team from me. They're gonna make me sell it. And, you know, it's my dream, and I don't want to lose my dream. So I need you to help me." And reluctantly, he agrees, and he shows up to Silverstone, and he meets the rookie driver, played by Damson Idris's character, that is kind of like a cocky kid. Like, he's like, "Okay, this thing, you know, I'm without being vulgar, like, I'm that guy." And, you know, they clash for a little bit. And they tend to clash throughout the rest of the film. But Sonny rocks up, and he gets in the car, and he actually drives it quite well. He recognizes some of the issues with the car. And I think this part is something to kind of touch on. The rookie was not giving good feedback to the engineer, the technical director of the team. So they were really having issues, struggling, like figuring out like where to take the car. And I think that's something that's actually very realistic. Like, I think generally less experienced drivers have trouble understanding what is actually wrong with a car. Like, hey, it's oversteering, it's understeering at the same time. Like, it's doing this thing. Like, but they're not descriptive. They can't really describe it. And so, from an engineer's perspective, I think it is really hard to try to adapt the car or move the car in some direction if you can't be really descriptive. And this is something that more experienced drivers have a lot of ability to do. And Sonny was able to do that quite well. Yeah, he crashed the car, but he did that, and he immediately provided value, and you know, he was on pace with the rookie. So anyway, as they go through the film, I think this is where some stuff kind of gets unrealistic, right? Sonny is doing like these really crazy, like borderline illegal things and tactics to, like, you know, he's breaking he's making people puncture his tires, and he's making people break wings on his car, so he's getting all this debris on the track, and it's causing safety cars. There's all this debris. I think generally probably in F1, maybe with extreme debris, you would cause a safety car. I don't know that it would happen as much as it did happen in the movie, but like, you know, he was doing these things. So just try and do like odd strategies to help them with this slow car. You know, kind of score points, and it worked to varying levels of success. But he's kind of just doing this like cowboy thing where he's just going off on his own. He's like, you know, just trust me, just trust me. And so, you know, they do these things, whatever. Like, it works, it doesn't work. But obviously, he and the rookie are still butting heads, which I think was interesting. I'm not gonna just full disclosure, I'm not gonna synopsis the whole movie, but I do want to just kind of say where they start and then kind of where they end. Eventually he does this thing where, you know, he comes up with this crazy strategy, and he's actually like sacrificing himself in a way to make sure that the rookie is the person that's winning. And he's at Monza in the wet, and the rookie's like, he's telling the rookie, he's like, hey, you know, wait until the next straight to overtake Verstappen into turn one. Which, here's another unrealistic thing. You're not overtaking Verstappen into a tight corner at Monza. It's not gonna happen. But anyway, he tries to do it at the Parabolica, which is a really long right-hand corner. In the wet, goes offline, crashes. Super dramatic crash that I've seen people like have differing opinions on. They say it's not realistic. I don't really care if it was realistic or not. Like, I've seen crashes when you hit those sausage curbs when you go off the track like that are very, very dramatic. Maybe that was a bit too dramatic. It's a movie. So that's one of those things where you just kind of turn your brain off and you're just like, damn, he really crashed, he could have died, he got really hurt. Cool. And anyway, eventually they do start to kind of sync up, and I think it started to show some character development for the two characters, where the rookie started to trust the old guy's process, right? He even starts to like instead of focusing so hard on his workouts, he does this like coordination thing that Sonny Hayes is doing, and I thought that was cool. It starts to show some of the development of them. They start to relate on a couple of things that they experienced in their lives, found that they have in common. And eventually, by the end of the movie, they have this camaraderie. They work together very well. They trust each other. Sonny recognizes how fast the rookie is. The rookie recognizes how skilled and cunning Sonny is, and they grow better, because of it. And I think that's all great. So generally, I think that was decent character development. Some you would kind of expect, like it was pretty predictable, but it was okay. Like it's fine. It wasn't groundbreaking writing, but it was decent writing, I would say. And then like the romance between Sunny and the head technical director. I've seen a lot of things where people say it's not a great representation of women in motorsport. I don't necessarily have an opinion about that. I'm not a woman, so like I can't say if like it was a good representation of women. I will say that generally I feel like movies have to have some sort of romantic tie-in to kind of have the stakes for people. And Sunny's character is in dire situations multiple times in the movie. Like it's found out after a big crash that he did have this injury from years and years and years ago where he raced, and he could have been paralyzed, and he him continuing to race and even racing thus far has been really dangerous for him, and he starts to have symptoms from that and just other issues. And so I think it kind of ties into that. Could the movie have gone without it? Yeah, maybe. Do I think it diminishes the brilliance of this first female technical director? No. I don't think it diminishes at all. I think she's still a badass in her own right. I think she's still super smart. I think she designed the upgrade that they needed to like be competitive, which was really cool. So yeah, I think it was generally okay. It's fine. I know people don't have the highest opinion of it, but I personally don't have that much of an issue with it. Some of the things that were really hard for me to turn my brain off were, like, I know the car is an F2 car. I think they did a good job in replacing some of the other cars, like digitally to look like the Apex car. There's just various footage that is very clearly not. It was very clearly from like a race with F1 cars, and they replaced it and used the footage. And I think they did that in very creative ways. Like all the driving scenes like really flowed. I found the biggest distraction when they were on onboards and you could see the F2 wheel and you could tell it's not an F1 wheel. I think F1 wheels are very distinct. Even like hypercar wheels are very distinct. It would have been nice if they had used something like that or tried to get the wheels to look a little bit closer, just because they showed the wheels in the car so much. But again, turning my brain off, is the average person going to know what an F1 wheel is like versus an F2 wheel? No. So again, I don't give it too much harm, or I don't rate it too negatively because of that. Another thing is the F2 cars have this distinct like flame on downshift that the F1 cars don't have, and it's probably just an efficiency thing. Like maybe it's wasted energy in the tune of the F2 engines that is not a big deal, but in F1 you want to use all the energy as efficiently as possible. So I know F1 cars don't do that. The F2 cars that they used obviously did a lot, and then they also added it in post to a couple of the F1 cars. Personally, I like flames on downshift and upshift or whatever, so like it doesn't bother me that much, but it did distract me. Again, is a normal person gonna know this stuff? No. So it's fine. Yeah, I think from the cars it was generally okay. And that's probably the only two like nitpicks that I would have if I had any nitpicks. There's your normal like people are doing things and like there's downshifts and upshifts and like the footage doesn't match. But it's so quick that like I think yes, I picked up on it because like I watched so much footage of driving that I like I'm able to kind of relate that really easily. But again, is the average person going to do that? No, like they're not going to notice that stuff. It wasn't Fast and Furious like that. I think that stuff's really obvious. I think they generally did a good job with this, so that was good. So I'll wrap this up really quick because I didn't want to make this like a super long video. I think in general, like the film was good. It kind of seemed like they were setting up more films. I don't think they need to do that. I think it would be cool to make more racing films in general, like in this style, not necessarily with these characters. I think it would be cool to do like an endurance racing film, like around the hypercars or the GT3 cars or something like that. I think that would be really cool in this style. Yeah, I would love to see stuff like that, but generally, like I don't think this needs a sequel. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily want to see a sequel of this. But perhaps if they did it, I would still watch it, and I think The only thing they would really need to improve for me is just a bit of the writing, because again, I think it was a bit just generic. However, I am conscious that this is a very expensive movie, and so they had to go a bit safe with stuff. I don't view that as a detriment here. I think they needed to make sure that the movie is appealing to a wide variety of people. So again, it's not a documentary. It's not meant to be like a tech demo of Formula One. So or even like super intricate details of the stories of Formula One, like, you know, the driver, we got the qualifying shots and all this stuff. I think the fact that some of that stuff wasn't in it, which is also important to note, they didn't really have qualifying or practice. Some reviews that I saw mentioned this, and it kind of made it seem like from the reviews that qualifying did exist in this universe. In the movie, they do speak about qualifying. I just don't think it was relevant because they're at the back of the grid anyway. I don't think it was relevant to the story to like show qualifying, so they didn't, and that's okay. So that didn't bother me. I think that bothered other people. It didn't bother me. It didn't bother me that Sonny Hayes wouldn't have a super license. Again, who cares? Yeah, and that he's 60. Who cares? It doesn't matter. I don't think it matters. That stuff is whatever. I think people nitpicking that are just kind of doing too much. So, in general, I think it was a good film. I think it might end up being one of those kind of things that like kids like remember from their childhood, just like we have with our movies. If you look back at like all the movies that we grew up with, they weren't necessarily the best movies or the best written movies or whatever, but they were just cool. There was like an effect that they had on us. I think this movie will do that for kids, right? I think they will have that. I would watch it again. I don't know that I'd go to the theaters and watch it again, but I don't really do that with anything, so it's not really special, a special consideration for this film. I would watch it on TV. I would rent it. Yeah, I think I would consume the movie again, and I would have a decent time. So I think generally, in conclusion, right, it's my wonderful video essay, I think you should give it a chance. I think it was fine. I think it was a good film. It was very entertaining. The filmography, the score was amazing. Cinematography, filmography. I'm not a film critic, so I don't know the right terms. From a specific accuracy standpoint, maybe it scores lower, but again, it's not a documentary. Yeah, I think you could. I think if you're a super diehard F1 fan and you're not willing to turn your brain off, I don't think you'll enjoy it. I think if you are willing to turn your brain off and just have a good time, I think you will enjoy it. I think from a racing driver perspective, it is an enjoyable watch. Yeah. So all in all, I give it like a solid like 7 or 8 out of 10, kind of on that scale. Like a 10 being like the best movie ever, nothing would have. A 9 being like, you know, an instant classic, and a 7 or 8 being like an enjoyable watch with not too many issues, and something that you would watch again. So I put it in that 7 or 8. Maybe let's give it a 7.5 out of 10. You know, it's definitely a super above average film. It's definitely, I hope that they make all the money that they invested into it. I think they deserve to. I think they did a great job. I think the people involved did a great job. The acting was fine. It was a little cheesy in places, but that's Hollywood. Some of the stories, and again, I think it's only cheesy because of the requisite knowledge that I have. And so yeah, man, I think go to the film. Take a kid if you have kids. If you have someone that you know that is kind of into F1, kind of into motorsports, but not like the biggest fan, take them. I think they'll enjoy it. Go watch it. Yeah, I think you have a good time. So that's it. I've taken too much of you guys' time. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'm happy to hear your negative opinions, positive opinions, what you change, what you want to see if they did it again, whether it's an F1 2 or what they call it F2, or if it's like another film, another series in the same style. Let me know. Interested to your thoughts below. In any case, I'll see you next time. Peace.